you have one project that you're really proud of that you've done within your career? I mean, something that really stands out to you?
Um, People always ask me that question. What's your favorite project or the thing you're most proud of? I have a few. I have a few that come to mind. One is I designed my own home
Oh,
and did a lot of the work on it myself. So that was a big project conceptually, but also in terms of implementation,
hmm.
timeline schedules, learning new skills, and so forth. I'm happy to share a sketch of that with you for the presentation here. So that's one of them. The other would have probably been last summer. I did a project that culminated with a showcase in the middle of the pandemic. I know it sounds crazy, but we did it outdoors. And I wanted to kind of lean into that
Okay.
artistic side of design. At least I call it design for mass appreciation, not mass consumption, because the pieces were unique, individual, and not meant to be mass produced.
Yeah.
And so it was a fun project, and I'm proud of it because it's something that I conceptualized, executed, and presented, and was able to kind of get the community involved in terms of seeing, hey,
Hmm.
here's what I do, and I'm a designer. Seeing a bit of the process behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and being able to entertain and show the work. So that's one that I was super proud of. And I've had hits along the way, I guess you could say, beats along the way that either resulted in revenue increases for companies or funding, things like that. But those two kind of stand out to me right now.
All right. Cool. They sound very exciting. Yeah, the home design is something that I would love to do as well. Like at some point.
Yeah, I enjoy dabbling in a little bit of architecture, interior design as
Hmm.
well, and I've done a few projects here and there. So that's another thing that I do.
One of many. Yeah. All right. So my next question is, with your experience now, what would you say to someone who's interested in industrial design?
Oh, what would I say? I would say that I've had some interesting thoughts on the topic. One, it seems as though there's a lot of industrial designers. I'm not sure if it's because of social media and how small it makes the world feel,
Hmm.
but when I went to school, it was industrial design felt more of a niche profession
Hmm.
with not as many opportunities. So right now, I struggle to see where everyone's going. Man, there's a lot of graduates, there's a lot of schools. Where's everyone going? What are you doing?
Yeah.
That being said, I would say be mindful that there's likely not as many opportunities as you think. So there's no guarantee that you're going to get placed in the job you want or do the thing you want. So um, be prepared to be flexible, to do a variety of things, to service others in using your talents and skills that you acquire studying industrial design in other ways.
Hmm.
And if you approach things that way, then I think in terms of opportunities, you'll have more opportunities.
Yeah.
As far as the profession changing, you know, stay. Well, I did mention stay flexible, but also flexible in learning.
Hmm.
So learn new skills, pay attention to trends and what's happening. The VR space was hot for a bit. I don't know if that's cool enough or not,
Yeah.
or if the cost is just prohibitive for many people.
Mm.
But the process seems interesting, certainly. So I'd say continue learning, be flexible,
Yeah.
and just be mindful that there may not be opportunities for
Mm.
you. And not to be a complete wet blanket and a Debbie Downer here, but just remember that design is not about you.
Yeah.
You know, if you go into it with an ego or thinking that you're going to change the world or whatever, that's fine. But just at least maintain some pragmatism when it comes to what it is we do.
Mm. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Sorry. What you were saying about like there's so many graduates. Like where is everyone going? Uh, I tried to look at that after my class graduated, and so many ways. We all go in so many directions, you know. A lot of people continue studying, and then a lot of people go into like more specific stuff, and then a lot of people go into retail. Some people go completely like something another kind of design and stuff like that. So it is interesting to see that there are few people who actually are able to find opportunities and stick with industrial design specifically. And there are a lot of people who are just like going like orbiting around other professions that, you know, are similar to industrial design, but aren't really like creative, or maybe like more about execution and stuff like that. So it is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot certainly since I went to school. You know, when I went to school, it was I would say I went to school around the time that design thinking was being pushed heavily.
Yeah.
You know, there was a famous Agio shopping cart project that was televised, and people were kind of queuing into this idea of design thinking. And it wasn't so much an assumption as it was something that industrial design was trying to take on and really just reframe the profession as being more than just stylists. You know, so when I went to school, we were stylists that were uh, learning design thinking, and now I feel that design thinking is just it's an assumed part.
Yeah.
And so the next phase of that, I'm not sure what that's going to be. Meaning, you know, how the profession is going to evolve. But in terms of the things we work on, there seems to be more of a blending of physical, digital projects and things that are less tangible and perhaps more experiential as well. So I guess not being fixated on the idea that, oh, to be a successful industrial designer, I have to launch this product and it has to be a physical thing.
Yeah.
Because those skills can be used in other ways.
There are also like so the expectations that they set for you in design school, from what I've seen and from what I've seen on Instagram as well with other industrial design students, is that like universities sometimes they'll be like, oh look, you know, you have all this space to design all these things, and like some like cliche object that you would design is like an orange press or something like that. And like knowing that it's not necessarily realistic, the projects that you're doing in school aren't necessarily, and like these teachers will tell you that they'll be like, okay, we're having fun here, but you aren't necessarily going to be able to do this kind of open project or this kind of specific project when you're working, and it's going to be a lot more like you're going to be a lot less free with your creative input sometimes. And then I mean, yeah, I feel like sometimes
that's I totally agree, and that's why I mentioned that design is not about you.
Yeah.
You know, someone is coming to you with a need, and you're providing a service and conceptualizing solutions, you know, based on research, observations, insights. Maybe it's new manufacturing processes, technologies, and so forth to close that gap. But it's not like, you know, even the project I did last summer, that was perhaps a bit self-serving or derivative in the sense because I did it for me. I didn't want those constraints. I do that day in, day out with clients, and so I wanted to lean more into the art side of design. So in a day-to-day setting, it's rare that you'll be given total creative freedom or freedom of expression or ideation or process even.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be working for someone.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, about also kind of related to that, there's a lot of, you know, echo now with COVID and, you know, with the economic crisis and all that stuff. What do you think about, you know, these young designers and these new graduates and these people who aren't able to find jobs, mixed in with the fact that there aren't that as many opportunities probably as there are students in design? what do you think about that?
Well, it goes back to my first point in staying flexible. And
Yeah.
I have personal experience with this. As I mentioned, in
Mm-hmm.
2008, there was a recession. And that was kind of a crucible moment in my career where, I was laid off essentially,
Yeah.
furloughed anyways, and had to make a choice. Okay, I have a family. How am I going to provide? What am I going to do? This is a position where I had to make some choices,
Mm-hmm.
and I could have persisted
Mm.
down the path, maybe gotten another job somewhere, but I took that opportunity to be creative, and that's when my then business partner and I decided to do our own thing. It sounds crazy, but in creating our own space to business essentially and servicing a specific part of the design process, we were able to find success.
Mm-hmm.
Because as companies, and I saw this happen with COVID as well, as companies kind of pull back from full service design outsourcing, they may have specific gaps that they need filled. So let's say you're having trouble finding a job, but maybe you have kick ass skills at rendering. Hey, start providing that rendering service.
Yeah.
Yes, it may seem reductive or small if you think about design in the grand scheme of things, but there are ways to create opportunities for yourself. And sometimes what happens too is it's like, hey, I'm doing this illustration for a client. That's kind of an introduction, but maybe they'll hire you for other things as
Mm-hmm.
well and realize, oh, you actually
Yeah.
do a lot more. Okay, cool. Now that we've done this project, here's something even bigger. So
Mm-hmm.
we saw that happen in 2008, and it was being willing to take a risk, being flexible,
Mm-hmm.
uh, finding your niche, find your sharp point, whatever it is you're really good at.
Yeah.
Sell yourself that way, and then create other opportunities from there.
Okay.
But also, don't be afraid to quit or pivot. Maybe that's like anti-advice, but
Yeah.
part of life is sometimes knowing when to quit and
Yeah.
decide, hey, maybe this isn't for me,
Mm-hmm.
or what are my priorities? What's important right now, and is this path serving me?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's not that wild, I've seen, I heard about a lot of companies and like startups and new initiatives starting like now and during COVID and even like right before COVID, and going through this whole like craziness. And I mean, if it's also, yeah, it's as you say, it's being creative with what you can do and your options. And if you analyze the situation, you can see that, for example, like e-shopping is exploding and has been exploding since the beginning of confinement and all that stuff. So you can do something in that. Maybe you can like start with designing,
Or in my case, distance learning became a thing,
or
and
yeah, as well.
I, historically I would travel and conduct workshops also as
Mm-hmm.
supplementary income, and that's become a bigger part of what I do, and that's okay. Being
Mm-hmm.
flexible in the pandemic, I think, is important. um, and so my advice for students would be just try and, I guess, be aware and
Mm-hmm.
see what opportunities are there. At the beginning of the pandemic, a friend of mine who's a designer said to me, now's the time for creatives. We're
Yeah.
in a time of insane uh, hyper insecurity. No one knows where anything's going, which way anything is going. We had this new pathogen. It was rapidly spreading.
Yeah.
No one knew what this thing was. But I think designers, in a sense, are equipped to
Mm-hmm.
handle ambiguity more so than many other people. Right, so we kind of have this ability, whether it's innate or acquired or learned. Our tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty can provide resilience in situations like this. And when you couple that with creative thinking and being, learn to see, is what I
Mm-hmm.
would say. Learn to see opportunities in as much as when you research and you observe someone, you kind of
Yeah.
see that angle that no one else
Uh-huh.
sees. Pay attention to your feelings, pay attention to the opportunities you see, and then see how that lines up with the services you can provide. And I think that creates some opportunities.
Yeah. That's some great advice. Really, no, yeah, it is. it is something that I've observed as well during the pandemic. It's the those companies and those places that have been able to adapt to the situation that are doing well now. And there are so many initiatives, and it's actually pretty cool because you also like I spoke about this also in the first interview with Sam, where like for example after a crisis you'll have a lot of development and you'll get a lot of new technologies and a lot of new things happening because you're in the situation where there's a crisis and people are panicking and we don't know what's going to happen. But then at the same time there's a lot of creative development, like after World War II, for example. So no, it is interesting to unleash the industrial designers in this time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's been a hell of a year. Learned a lot of things. Sorry, I got a lot of thoughts
No, yeah.
bouncing around in my head, but yeah, for me, 2020 was actually great. And as I was kind of just listening and reflecting, I remember, like I said, seeing people panic, like, oh no, what's happening? What are we gonna do? But my instinct was to go, okay, just breathe. What opportunities are here? How can I adapt how I work? Whether it's investing more in my studio, which I did, and that turned out to be the right move, or upgrading my internet connection. Just little things like that that I did ahead of time, kind of set me up for this new reality.
Exactly, that's awesome. I didn't really, yeah, that like it's those little things, and you're like, okay, I'm setting the steps to be able to continue to be resilient in this situation with my work. Yeah.